The Fed made that interest rate hike, the 0.75%, which is a major increase, the biggest increase by the Fed since 1994. Stock market starts falling again. It's dipped below 30,000.
The Fed got us in this mess to some extent because they essentially expanded the money supply by 3 or 4-fold over the last 5 or 6 years.
The question is, of course, how this all affects you, short-term, long-term. Why the Fed does this, which, remember, is somewhat of an independent entity, though the president selects the Fed chair and members of the Fed. They are not, in a sense, they serve longer terms usually than the president, and you see a lot more consistency there, not so much partisanship, and it's whether or not they acted too late, whether this will, again, impact inflation. Now, that was the point there, is that this is supposed to, impact and help inflation, strengthen the dollar.
So we don't go into a recession.
So we don't go into the R word, which is recession.
Rather than focusing on bread and butter issues, the real frustration is the Biden administration is focused on climate change. That's much more important to them than the bread and butter issues that affect the American people. How do they pay for gasoline? How do they pay for food? And essentially, the Biden administration has issued its own plan to deal with all these problems. It's called disdain.
What makes me nervous when all of this happens and you've got an administration like this in place is that they will come up with a solution. And the solution will be massive amount of government spending, influx of cash for you, and you will get more dependent on another government program. And so they'll see this. They've got to get through this politically. It doesn't like this is going to help in the midterms. Short term, they can't. But long term, the re-election strategy for Biden or whoever the Democrat nominee is could be, okay, these Republican tax cutters, no, that's not what we need.
Whether we're talking about a stock market that's down as we're on live 700 or something points, or interest rates ticking up, it's a war on the American family because, if they would have done things preemptively, we wouldn't be in this situation.
The Biden administration is simply tone deaf. They refuse to really hear from the American people. And I think the American people are increasingly frustrated with this. And so the Biden administration is telling gas and oil companies to be patriotic. Meanwhile, the Biden administration wants to shut down oil and gas in the United States. It makes no sense.
Elections have consequences. Those consequences are policies. Bad policies also equal bad consequences.
The Democrats, for most of my life, have tried to, and maybe could argue successfully owned, the middle class and young people, where they were able to say, we're for the working class. I think the whole thing is flipped. Faith in the American system. That has all imploded under Joe Biden, and now what we see is on a daily basis, people filling up their cars. It's way too expensive. Their 401ks imploding, and the biggest thing is fear about the future. That's what the Democrats have given us.
The message that the White House is tripling down on. Blame Putin for everything.
It's actually laughable. I'd like to meet somebody who actually believes that. The fact is that the Biden policies of taking away energy production, the Biden policies of taking away the Trump sanctions on the Russian pipeline have contributed more to the war in Ukraine than anything else. Senate Democrats joined the Biden administration to do this, and they cannot complain and completely blame Putin for this.
Whether you're an employer or an employee, whether you are about to retire, you already have retired, how is this changing your outlook? Are you starting to plan more in a long-term sense for this? Which, listen, some folks don't have the luxury to do because they're trying to get by week to week right now. But how has that changed too? Because I know who I'm talking to is folks who are who work, they have good jobs. They're informed folks, listen to this broadcast, either still working, a lot of small business owners, and a lot of people who are right around that retirement age who may be thinking twice about it.